So we are now starting Siman Samech, Siman 60, which is talks. The previous Siman we discussed about the first blessing of Kriyat Shema, and now we are talking about the second blessing of Kriyat Shema, Ahava Rabbah, and also about Kriyat Shema itself. So it combines two things together. The reason is because the first blessing of Kriyat Shema that takes quite a few halachot, and here we have only one halacha about the second blessing. You also learned it about in the past. Ahava Rabbah. Ahava Rabbah. That's according to the Ashkenaz minhag. The Sephardi minhag will be Ahavat Olam. Ashkenaz say Ahava Rabbah during the day, and Ahavat Olam during the night. It's like something maybe symbolic. The day resembles redemption, or when it's good, when it's bright. So we say Ahava Rabbah. There's a great love, a big love between God and us, or God loves us very much. The nighttime is when we are in dark, when the Jews went to exile, and sometimes things are hard. And then we say Ahavat Olam. It's an infinite love. It's forever. It's the everlasting love of God to us. So even when it seems dark, we know it's Ahavat Olam. And there were times during the Jewish history where we felt mainly Ahavat Olam, like people in the dark, with the Holocaust, during the Inquisition and other hard periods. So they just had the hope. Today we have the privilege of. I spoke to a friend today, asked him about his kids. His kids are in the States and in learning in university. I mean, they learn in I think it was Maryland or something. There's not so much anti-Semitics there in the university, which is now became an issue. And here, with the war and with everything, people live here, happy to live here, and we have a state. That's Ahava Rabbah. Okay, so the second blessing of Shema is Ahava Rabbah. As we have a rule, if we have two blessings or more, which are right after each other, so the first blessing will start with Baruch Atah, and the second blessing will not start with Baruch. We have it in Birkat Hamazon, right? The second blessing is Nodeh, the third blessing is Rachem. When we have blessings which are continuing each other, so from the second one and on, we don't start with Baruch, and same Ahavat Olam, Ahava Rabbah, they do not start with Baruch because they continue the first blessing. Although it's something interesting, I think we mentioned that last week. What happens if someone by mistake mixed up the order and he first said Ahava Olam? Can he say afterwards Yotzer Or, the first blessing? Can you first say blessing number 2 and then blessing number 1? And here the answer is yes. You can. We should have the order which Chazal wrote for us, but not like Birkat Hamazon, not like not like Shmoneh Esrei. Yeah, it's a preferable to have this order, but you can also change if by mistake someone changed the order. They can change the order. It's fine. What happens, we mentioned it also, I think, last week, we'll repeat it again this week. Someone goes to the late minyan. He looks at the watch, he says, the time of Kriyat Shema is about to pass. So what does he do? Say Shema, without the blessings. After 20 minutes, he gets to Kriyat Shema. Although he said Shema beforehand, he can now say again the blessings of Shema. And there are even opinions that he just says the blessing of Shema without saying Shema. The Shulchan Aruch says, and that's what we do. He said it's better to say the blessings of Shema with Shema. Yeah, so we say them. But if one said the blessings, he said Shema early in the morning, and then afterwards during davening he gets to Shema, he can say Shema with the blessings of Shema. The reason is, as we mentioned, or part of the reason is, as we mentioned last week, that the status of these blessings is quite interesting. On one hand, it's like a Birkat Mitzvot. It's like the blessing we say on a mitzvah, on one hand. So always a blessing you say on a mitzvah should be close to the mitzvah, should be part of the mitzvah. On the other hand, it's part of praising Hashem. And you can praise Hashem even not connected to accepting Him as our God, as when we say Shema Yisrael. When we have the blessings of a mitzvot, if someone took the lulav and he picked the lulav and did all the shaking the lulav, and then he remembered that didn't say the blessing. Too late, right? As soon as you do the mitzvah, you can't say the blessing anymore. Okay, if
the mitzvah still counts.
The mitzvah counts, yeah, the mitzvah counts. Yeah, obviously, he did the mitzvah, he just doesn't get the blessing. If someone, that's probably maybe the best example we have. If someone maybe lit the Hanukkah candles, he finished lighting the Hanukkah candles and says, wait, I didn't say the blessings. You did the mitzvah, but you can't. Okay. Someone took Truma to Masrot. Took Truma to Masrot without the blessing. Took Challah without the blessing. It's fine. He did the mitzvah, the Challah is Challah, Truma to Masrot is Truma to Masrot, but he can't say the blessing anymore. By the blessings of Shema, they also have like an independent status of praising Hashem as part of the davening, as part of Shema, but they have an independent status of praising Hashem. Therefore, when we say Shema in the morning, if someone, let's say he's scared the time of Shema will pass, and he says Shema in the morning, and then he gets to the blessings of Shema as part of the davening, he can say the blessings of Shema. So that's for that.
Without saying Shema itself.
It should. Shulchan Aruch said it's best. It's better to say Shema itself. Okay, it's better to say also Shema.
And just quickly, on an early, when Shabbos, when we do early Friday night Minyanim during the summer, for example, we usually say, remember, you have to say Shema again.
So that's another example. Yeah, that's the opposite example, where during an early Shabbos, right, when you accept Shabbat early and you daven Mariv early, and we have here two times. We have the time of the davening, which you can daven early, and you have the time of Shema that you can't say Shema early, or you can say Shema, but you don't fulfill the mitzvah. So you say Shema with the blessings early, and you fulfill the mitzvah of davening, which includes also the blessings of Shema. And then later, you say just Shema without the blessings.
And then half an hour later, you say it again?
Yeah, just Shema without it. Yeah. When you go to sleep, so the reason we say Shema when we go to sleep is more like a protecting from bad spirits. Okay, that's why the blessing is different. That's why we don't say all the three parashiyot. We say Hamapil and Shema, V'afta. We don't say all Vayomer. So, although that's also an interesting topic according to. But generally speaking, when we go to sleep, we say Shema when we go to sleep. It's not fulfilling the mitzvah of Shema. It's psukim we say to protect ourselves before we go to sleep. Or if you want to give it more of a maybe rational explanation, when we go to sleep, we want to have good dreams. We want to go to sleep in a good mind, with a positive thinking, or maybe with more of a mission. Who are we? Who do we belong to? Just before we fall asleep, we remind ourselves. Go to sleep from the words of Torah. We belong to something much, much bigger than just a private person who's going to sleep. The next two seifim in the Shulchan Aruch are very, very interesting. They're very interesting, many discussions about it, and it touches the very wide question: do mitzvot require intention? Or in Hebrew, ha'im mitzvot tzrichot kavana, right? When I do a mitzvah, do I need to have intention or in mind of doing a mitzvah, or it's fine, or even if I did the mitzvah without having it in mind, I fulfill the mitzvah. Now let's divide it to three levels. Some mitzvot I do passively. I do passive, and just if people are trying to speak, so we can't hear just because of the microphone, but I'll have the chat open in front of me. So the WhatsApp is a good way to communicate if there's any questions from the Zoom. Just because the Zoom is putting for me out messages. So the first maybe category will be a mitzvah we do. We are passive in doing the mitzvah. For example, hearing the shofar, hearing the Megillah. That's a passive mitzvah we do. Usually there, we'll have a question, do we have to have in mind of fulfilling the mitzvah or not? That will be one category. The second level will be a mitzvah that we are active in doing the mitzvah, but we just didn't have in mind. Okay, someone put on tefillin. He didn't think that's right moment, I'm now fulfilling the mitzvah of tefillin. but he's doing an active action of taking tefillin and putting it on his head, or shaking a lulav, or lighting the Chanukah candles. So maybe now he's not thinking, I'm now doing a mitzvah, but if you ask him a moment afterwards, what did you do now? What will be the answer? I did the mitzvah. I did the mitzvah, right? Or if someone is standing now in shul and he came to shul especially to listen to the shofar. Right? He's not just outside and all of a sudden he hears the shofar. He's now actively in shul with everyone. So maybe he doesn't have in mind to listen to the shofar, but obviously if you ask him, he's doing a mitzvah. That will be the second level. And the third level will be a person who is planning, I'm now doing a mitzvah of shofar, megillah, tefillin, whatever it will be. Okay? So preferably, before we do every mitzvah, we should have in mind, we should know what we're doing, right? We're people, we aren't robots. We should know what we're doing. The best thing is to have in mind, we should know what we're doing.
Some people do hineni muchan.
Yes, some people say hineni muchan uzuman. We don't have to say it, but even just I'm now doing a mitzvah, just have in mind, I am now doing a mitzvah of whatever. Some people say L'Shem Yichud. The problem is when people say L'Shem Yichud so often, sometimes it becomes like part of the text. L'Shem Yichud, what are we saying? I'm not sure. I'm just reading the Siddur. In the Siddur it says L'Shem Yichud. So I'm saying L'Shem Yichud. So the main thing is having in mind. So there seems like an argument in the Gemara, and also argument in the Rishonim, rather mitzvot tzrichot kavana or no? Do we have to have intention in doing the mitzvah or no? In order to fulfill a mitzvah, do we have to have intention, or we have to have it in mind? I am now going to do a mitzvah. So the Shulchan Aruch brings both opinions. Okay, he brings both opinions. And he says some hold that mitzvot do not need intention. And if one did a mitzvah without any intention, he was standing outside of shul, all of a sudden they blow the shofar, he wasn't planning to hear the shofar, but all of a sudden he said, wait, I just 2 minutes ago just heard the shofar. I said, great, I don't need to go to shul now, I can continue on walking. Right? If one was sitting at home, babysitting his kids, his window was open, right next to him there was someone else reading the Megillah. And he didn't have in mind of listening to the Megillah, it just happened to be that he heard the Megillah, so he did the mitzvah. So there's an argument, and the Shulchan Aruch brings both opinions, and he says, the halacha is mitzvot do need intention. Okay? Mitzvot do need intention. If one did the mitzvah without any intention, so he didn't fulfill the mitzvah. So we have to have in mind to fulfill the mitzvah. The Chayei Adam. Okay, I want to see who brings it. The Chayei Adam brings, and the Mishnah Berurah brings in the name of the Chayei Adam. Yeah, we say it as a joke. I'm not sure if it's real or no, but the Chayei Adam, he took the Shulchan Aruch and wrote his perush on the Shulchan Aruch, and some of it he increases and expands, and some of it he brings the halacha. So say, why did he call his book Chayei Adam? So the real reason, because Torah is the real life of a person. That's what. But they say as a joke, there's a book called Shulchan Aruch. We're now learning Shulchan Aruch. Came a few different rabbis, of Gansfried and other rabbis, and they wrote Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. The Kitzur shortened the Shulchan Aruch. So the Chayei Adam wanted to write a book, and he didn't want other people to make it shorter for him. So how did he call it? Chayei Adam, the life of a person. Who will have the who be Meshuga to take the book and write Kitzur Chayei Adam, right? So that's more of a joke, but the main reason I think is because Torah is the life of a person, so that's why he called it like that. So the Chayei Adam brings that when we say that mitzvot need intention, it's only when we do mitzvot that we aren't actively doing the mitzvah. For example, one is standing out of shul, and he hears a shofar. He didn't come specially for that. He was watching after his kids. He was in hospital. Yeah, once people sometimes spend in the hospital for Rosh Hashanah, and they didn't have him. He was in his room. All of a sudden, he heard the shofar. He didn't have any intention in listening to the shofar. So then he wasn't yotzim. But I'll maybe read it. I won't read it. It's in Hebrew. So, but if a person reads Shema like redoing them, he's actively reading Shema. Is he now thinking of, I am now doing the mitzvah of Shema? Is he actively thinking about it? No, but he's actually doing it. If you ask him, what are you doing? What will he say? I'm doing the mitzvah of Shema, right? Or if he eats matzah or blows, he's blowing the shofar, right? He's blowing the shofar. If he takes lulav, although he didn't have now his intention to fulfill the mitzvah, so obviously that's, we call it in the halachic term or in the yeshivish term, kavanas tamid. Obviously his intention is to do the mitzvah. Okay, so it's important to know that there's an argument whether mitzvot need intention or no. And for la halacha, we say yes, mitzvot do need intention. We do need to have our mind set for the mitzvah. And lechatchila, that's the best thing before we do a mitzvah, is to think of what we're doing. I'm now fulfilling a mitzvah of so and so. I'm now fulfilling the mitzvah of tzedakah. I'm now fulfilling the mitzvah of davening. Before we do it, to have our mind connected. But if one does a mitzvah and he's actively doing the mitzvah, even if he didn't think about it, so he's still fulfilling the mitzvah because he's obviously engaged in the mitzvah. And now you may ask, and that brings us to the last halacha of Siman Samech, how is this connected to reading Shema? The Shulchan Aruch could have bring this argument with tefillin, which we learned many weeks ago, with lulav, which is in the end of the Shulchan Aruch or Chaim, or with matzah. Or why did he decide to bring this argument in Kriyat Shema? The Shulchan Aruch, he really thought of what he did. So you can say, okay, maybe the Tur, he wrote the Arba Turim, Rabbi Yaakov ben Harosh. So he brought it here. Okay, fine. So we remove the question from the Shulchan Aruch and bring it to a few generations earlier. Why did the Tur write this halacha in reading Shema? And the answer says the next halacha. Shema is something special. Shema is something special in that everyone agrees that we do need to have intention, at least, or to understanding of what we are saying, at least in the first pasuk. At least in the first pasuk. The Shulchan Aruch says in Seif Hey, someone who reads Shema and doesn't have his intention of his heart for the first pasuk, that's Shema Israel, he did not fulfill the mitzvah. So for the first pasuk of Shema, we have to have our minds set for what are we saying? Shema Israel, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. It's accepting Hashem is our God. Listen, Am Israel. Hashem, who is our God, He is one. Okay, so we believe that's the basic of the Jewish belief. Faith that we have one God. There's only one God to the world. We're all connected to Him. We have so many mitzvot that talk about being one. Hashem Echad B'Kerev Haaretz. We are one nation because there's only one God. It's a very important aspect in the Jewish philosophy. The Gemara in Masechet Sanhedrin brings a few Lamed Chet, I think, or Lamed Tet, brings a few arguments between different people who didn't believe so much, and Rabban Gamliel and other rabbis claiming there's two gods, there's a few gods, right? And the Jews said, no, we have one God, and He is our God. We believe in Him. He looks after us. He can see us. That's what we say in Shema Yisrael. So for the first pasuk, we have to know what we are saying. We have to have in mind that we are doing the mitzvah. Okay, so for that, we have to have in mind, and different than all the rest of the mitzvot. Here, we have to know what we are saying. We have to understand what we are saying for the first pasuk. The rest of Kriyat Shema, if one had intention and understands what he's saying, that's great. But if he didn't have intention and doesn't understand what he's doing, so that's also fine. He fulfilled the mitzvah. Okay? But for the first pasuk, we really need to have the kavanah, the mind in what we are saying.
Just for the last blessing.
Yeah.
It says here, Baruch Atah Hashem Ohev Amo Yisrael. I hear many people get up there and say, Ohev Et Amo Yisrael.
There's a few nusachim. We have a few nusach Ashkenaz. I didn't check for all the things, but I think almost in everything is a very short nusach. Nusach Sfarad will add more. Many times Sfarad you will add even more. So if you look at Ahava Rabbah is for Ashkenaz, it has a few lines less than Sfarad. So that's it's quite common that we have a few differences. That brings us to the next chapter. And we won't learn all of it. It has 26 sifim inside it, maybe paragraphs in it. And the main, maybe theme of it is when we say Shema Yisrael, we have to have in mind what we're saying. We should feel we're standing in front of a king. We should we should try and pronounce the words in a good way. The meaning of all of the numbers of the letters and or words in Shema. And all the 26 paragraphs here are talking about how to say Shema in the best way. How to say Shema in the best way. And that's something that I say many times. That's what I learned from the rabbi in my shul of David Stein. I remember when the Chazan, or when I was a Chazan, I always used to wait for him to finish Shema. And he used to say Shema a bit loud and slowly. The rest of the davening, he didn't daven so slow. But Shema, he used to say a bit slower, and a bit loud. He used to try and pronounce each word as it should be. Many times, we'll get to it hopefully next week. There's different words that we can connect by mistake or pronounce wrongly by mistake. And he used to say it a bit slowly, with time. It adds maybe another half a minute, because Shema isn't so long. And the understanding is that Shema is a mitzvah midoraita. He's saying Shema is a mitzvah midoraita. Davening is rabbinical. It's obviously when we daven, we stand in front of a king, we want to think of what we say, but the words of Shmoneh Esrei are rabbinical. Our rabbis wrote it more than 2,000 years ago, but still it's rabbinical. Shema Yisrael is a mitzvah midoraita, to say it twice a day. Shema and ve'ahavta. Shema when we accept Hashem, and ve'ahavta. V'ayayim Shema when we accept the mitzvot. And Vayomer, it's also tzitzit, which reminds us of all the mitzvot, but also we remember going out of Egypt, which is the base for all of the mitzvot and the base for us meeting Hashem and the base for the Jewish nation. So always he used to say Shema in a slow pace, and that's what also I try to do here. And not to make everyone slow and wait, but more of that's something which is very, very important. Saying Shema in a slow pace. He used to say it also in the Te'amim, I think he still does, with the trops of it. That's not, yeah, maybe the same trop, I'm not sure. Yeah, okay, so we'll start this Siman, we won't finish it, but the main theme of the Siman is Samech Aleph, that's chapter Samech Aleph, 61, that's what we gave now. Saying Shema have all of our minds in it. It says, mentioned Shema, we read with intention, and maybe the interesting here, how many times have we said Shema in our life? Hundreds, right? I'm not sure, maybe even thousands. We can calculate it, right? If there's 300 and let's say just 350, 65 days a year, so 2 or 3 times a day, right? We get to
1,000 times a year.
That gets to thousands, right? Thousands times we say Shema. We say in Shema, in Ve'avta, Asher Anochi Metzavecha Hayom, I command you today. And Chazal say in this pasuk, Asher Anochi Metzavecha Hayom, to teach us, Bechol Yom Yu Be'enecha Kechadashim. I commanded you today, says Hashem. How can it be today? It was 3,000 years ago. So what does it mean today? You should try to feel something new. Every day should view Shema and the Torah as something new. And the question is, how do we do it? Right? We read it so many times. I think if we wake any one of us up in the middle of the night, start the pasuk of Shema and tell him, continue the pasuk, probably we'll know how to do it. Probably maybe even with the trops, right? The people who read with trop. Why? Because we said it so many times. So how could it be new? What do you think? What? I think, and here comes, if we read it just as reading it, that's old. But if we connect to it, so we change, right? We as human beings, we change. And if we change, so the way we perceive, the way we understand also changes. So if we just read it as a text, the text is the same text, it's been there for 3,300 years. But if we try to find how it connects to us, how we understand it, how we interpret it, how our mind connects to it, so then we renew, because we change every day. So also the meaning of Shema changes for us every day, right? Someday we can understand more ve'ahavta, the idea of love. Sometimes we can understand more the bechol meodecha, for all of your wealth, all the money. And sometimes we can, every time we can understand different things in a different way. We can connect differently to, but that requires thinking about the words we're saying and trying to say them slowly. So that's, I think, something very important about Kriyat Shema. I think for time we'll end here. We have another minute for Kriyat Shema, but we have another minute to think about Shema and what we're going to say. And, okay.
Our sisters at Marathon, as we do in